Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Real Sports Scope on this 28th day of January. Got a great show with you on for tonight. The Bills hire their offensive coordinator to be the head coach, Joe Brady. Todd Monken, I think that was a good hire for Cleveland there. It really took me by surprise there. Went with the Notre offensive coordinator that really deserved to get his shot. Talk about that. Bill Belichick, not in the Hall of Fame, doesn't make the first ballot. Neither does Eli Manning, and more. Stand by. I'll be back here momentarily, and we will hit the ground running here on the Real Sports Scope. Hello, Sports Scope followers. The program has seen tremendous growth since going 5 days a week. I just wanted to thank everybody for your cash contributions and sharing the program with friends and families. Just a reminder, if you want to contribute to the program, go to the Cash App, the cash sign, and Sports Scope. There are other ways to contribute to the program listed at the bottom of the screen. If you want to advertise on the program, go to Sports, that is Sports with an S, another S, Scope, SKOPE, at gmail.com, just like it's listed at the bottom of the screen. Thank you and enjoy the program. All righty then, folks, I'm back here live. I should have said this to start the program. My thoughts and prayers are with my local Nashville citizens. A lot of us not just lost power. We've got trees on our house. You've got trees in your yard that you're down, power lines. I lost power for 3 hours the other day. Of course, that's nothing. I've got friends that's lost 3 and 4 days. Of course, I've had power out since Saturday, just got it back on. And listen, I know it's a highly stressful time, folks, and we'll get through it. We'll get through it. I think this was declared a national emergency. A lot worse once I started driving the last few days, going back to work and seeing some of these roads, even like some of the main roads. I was on Hillsborough Pike today for you Nashvilleians, that Green Hills area, and a big giant tree actually blocking one of the lanes in Hillsborough Pike. So we'll get through it, Nashville. We always have. We got through the 2010 floods. It was really bad. We've got through many tornadoes and whatnot. We'll get through this as well. Okay. All right. Back to the show, football. So the Bills, let me say this. There's a lot of negativity on these new hires, a lot of ageism, This guy's too old. This guy's too young. And, something, the hirings over the last few days have not been bad at all. First of all, the Bills hired 36-year-old offensive coordinator Joe Brady to be the next head coach. I made a note to myself, mind you, the Rams hired 31. You heard that right. 31 when he started the job. Sean McVay to be the head coach back in 2017. Now, McVay did go out and hire veteran defensive coordinator Wade Phillips to run the defense. Mind you, that a year or so later, he ended up getting to the Super Bowl with that particular defense here. So, Brady needs to hire, that being said, he needs to hire a veteran defensive staff. I said this about Brian Callahan, the Titans coach. Yeah, he hired his dad, but the defensive coordinator was a fairly young guy. I think it was his first defensive coordinator job. Did okay the first year. Defense really fell off, took a major step back this particular year. You want to go with a veteran staff. Now, I know that they're looking at Jim Leonard, former player. Leonard's with the Denver Broncos. He's a pass game coordinator. Leonard was a great player. I want to say he played with the Ravens at one point, bounced around. He's an up-and-coming guy. He's 43 years old. Not too young, but I'd prefer, Buffalo fans, if you're listening, I'd prefer him go out and get a seasoned veteran like a Wink. There must be something up with Wink Martindale. Plus, Jim Schwartz is available, and that's a whole different story. But he's a veteran coordinator. But like a Wink Martindale, formerly of Michigan, the defensive coordinator there. Of course, the Sherrone Moore thing, he's out of a job right now. They've got a new coach up there in Michigan. But he's also coached it with the Ravens and whatnot. Somebody of that nature. Surround yourself with people who know more than you do. You know, that's one of the keys to success. When I started managing a security company at 25, I was over like 15, 20 people. I sought out advice from people 35, 40, 50, 60, 75 years old that were retirees that was just doing that job as a retiree. Sought out their advice. Don't be insecure. Seek out advice from people who know more than you. I hope that Brady does that. You still have an opportunity to win with the Josh Allen. Their offense wasn't the problem last year. Remember, other than maybe Cook holding on to the football, but for most part, very good number one rushing team in the NFL last year. They just couldn't stop the run, so they need an old school guy. I sure would like to get a Rex Ryan. Is great on ESPN. I'd even give him a call. He used to be head coach up there at Buffalo. Something like that. Wink Martindale. These guys are 60s, late 50s, 60 years old. But these are old heads who know the game of football, and particularly the defensive side, stopping the run here. Other than that, it's just not really a bad hire per se. I wish they would have went with the Belichick, the ball angle, but that didn't work out. The offense is going to be squared away. They need to continue to build on that defense, particularly Josh Allen. Josh Allen, if he's smart, I would adjust my salary and get some of that divvied out to the future and push some of that down the road so you can bring back some players, maybe bring in a couple of players here on the defensive side, particularly at the linebacker. You've got to bring Milano back and guys like that nature and help stop the run there. You still got a shot there if you are the Buffalo Bills, regardless of what others say. Okay? But anyways, okay. Also, Cleveland. This is an interesting story out of Cleveland here. The reports about the Cleveland Browns have been that the Browns are wanting to put out this essay, and they've got this really highly analytical way of going about hiring a coach. And I thought that they were looking at some of these really young coaches, guys. I think one of the assistants there with the Rams and whatnot, and I'm thinking they're going to get somebody nobody's never heard of. But then they put the stipulation, well, we want you to take Jim Schwartz, which just, listen, stuff like that has happened before and it's been successful before. I mentioned that with Rich Ferris before when he came on the program, which Rich was supposed to come on tonight, but he's another guy that had the power issue here in Nashville. Was going to talk about the ball going to the Titans thing. But anyways, that George Halas of the Chicago Bears put Buddy Ryan and Mike Ditka. They didn't work together before, but he hired Mike Ditka as the head coach. I want to say kept Buddy Ryan on or whatever. Kept Buddy Ryan, which is Rex Ryan's dad. We're talking 1985. They put those two guys together. Mr. Halas there. It's 40 years ago. It is what it is. They end up winning the Super Bowl. So you can do that, but most time, yes, coaches want to hire their own assistants. They want to hire their own coordinators. They don't want to be sprung together. They don't want to have the arranged marriage, if you per se. But so that was the story of the week coming into this week, that they were going to this, and a lot of guys were simply taking their name out of the hat. So they did a quick pivot this morning, and they hired Todd Monken, 59-year-old former offensive coordinator of the Baltimore Ravens. And what a lot of people, I'm just hearing it, what I'm not reading about, which I already know, why did you want to come to the most influential sports talk show on the planet, is that Monken very successful with Lamar Jackson. You know, Lamar Jackson, and I looked at his numbers for those 3 years. Even the year that he won the second year he was in the league, remember he got the MVP that year, but they got put out in the first round. But first year, I mean, just absolute best years. QBR rating, 2024, his best touchdown. He like 41 touchdowns in 24. Of course, that was not this past year, but year before, 24 season, when they end up, he had the crucial fumble against Buffalo in the playoffs. But that was a career year. And of course, in 23, less touchdowns, but he's very efficient. I think it was the highest rating that he had of his career. That particular year, Lamar wins the MVP, and of course, that's the year they should have won the Super Bowl. People want to criticize the passing and everything, the game plan in the Kansas City game. If you watch a game, Lamar simply just did not execute it. But that's what he was there for, to develop Lamar more as a passer per se. And hey, listen, I thought he did a great job. You look at the numbers there, completion percentage, touchdown to interception ratio, everything better, career high, all with Lamar Jackson. You know, whether Lamar's cap hit was too big and that they had to take away from the defense, or John Harbaugh, the head coach's voice wasn't standing strong anymore, may have gotten a little stale there. The reason why they moved off of him. None of that puts the blame on Todd Monken, who also won a national championship with a crisp Georgia offense in the college game. So really like that hire. Surprised they went with that, with the whole essay and all that. They go more 59-year-old Todd Monken here. And, of course, that ticked off Jim Schwartz. Never really been a Jim Schwartz. That's the defensive coordinator of the Cleveland Browns. I thought maybe that would be a pretty decent 1-2 combo, though, to put a veteran staff together like that. But, of course, his ego got bruised there because he thought he was going to get that head coaching job. So he's taking himself out of the running to be their coordinator. So, and he's still got a year left, so I don't know how they're going to work that out. But if you're Cleveland, you don't want to work. You got to let him walk and let Monken find him a different coordinator, which I'm sure he will find somebody as well with all that talent. But Schwartz was the head coach there with going back, I think, when Matt Stafford first came in. I want to say 2008. Did get to the playoffs one year, lost the playoff game to New Orleans here with Matt Stafford. But that didn't work out. He was later fired, and he became like the defensive coordinator of Buffalo. The big knock on his defenses are not very consistent. You could often throw on them. Very good against the run, but not as good at home. Not as good on the road as they are at home. Decent overall, decent. But, you know, when he was fired from Detroit, he was the defensive coordinator of Buffalo. Buffalo beat Detroit, and then he asked the team to carry him off the field to really rub it back in Detroit's face. So he's got a very big ego that could be easily bruised. So be it if you're a Cleveland Brown fan with the Jim Schwartz thing here. It's a pretty decent coordinator. He's not my favorite. I'd rather a guy like a McAway, or I'd rather a Brian Flores type of guy that has more of a consistent type of defense than a Schwartz. He's not a bad coordinator, but he's not as good as he thinks he is, per se. But overall, hey, that is a very good hire. I mean, he's going to be paired up with Shedeur Sanders. And the big thing with obviously your Cleveland Brown fans of the world is, you know, getting rid of that last cap hit there, that last bit of dead money from the guaranteed money from Deshaun Watson contract there. So it'll be 1 year where not sure if they're going to make the playoffs or not. They'll be year one coming into this season, but next year they'll be able to get, you know, have a clean slate and get that off of them. Now, that being said, I do assure you, Todd Monken, like Lamar Jackson, like Bennett, Stetson Bennett of Georgia. He will get the absolute best out of Shedeur Sanders. You mark my word. And mind you, they've also got Jacksonville's first-round pick, and they've got multiple fifth-round picks as well, not to mention all the picks they had last year with guys with Dylan Sampson in there, and then the running back there, Winston Junkins or whatever. So they got some pieces there. Mason Graham there on the defensive side. Of course, you have the defensive player of the year there, and Myles Garrett. A lot to build off of there in Cleveland. Of course, they've got to get their quarterback situation squared away. But I like that. I like where they're going there with this hire. Totally opposite of what I would have thought a week ago. But hey, good pivot for Cleveland. Cleveland's not always doing something stupid. When they do something stupid, I'll tell you they do something stupid. When they went a little quarterback crazy in this last year draft, yeah, that was a little stupid. But this particular hire is a very good hire. Probably need a little help at receiver. Add some depth there on defense. And we'll see. I mean, they've got Haining there at tight end. It's going to be an interesting. Obviously, it's just everything is about Shedeur Sanders, his development, and see how much, which I think he will. He's going to get more out of Shedeur. The question is, how much more out of Shedeur? Is Shedeur going to grow up from one year to the next? Most players, we saw this in Bo Nix last year. We saw it in Drake May this past year, and Bo Nix, two guys that were deep into the playoffs here, both rookies last year, take that big jump from year one to year two. Now, Shedeur is a guy that also played 4 years in college. Is he going to take that big jump from year one to year two? That's the $64,000 question there, Cleveland Brown fans. Let's see if I have any more notes on that. And also, I mentioned they should look at their guy like a Wink Martin. Somebody needs to hire Wink Martindale, But anyways, okay. All right. So we've got the Browns covered here. And eventually, probably next week, I will give you all my ranking of the new hires here. Okay. So right now we've got Todd Monken with Cleveland. We've got Joe Brady with the Buffalo Bills. Good hire there. Steelers, Mike McCarthy, great hire. A lot of people, this guy was crying, and I meant to get this clip, and I totally forgot. He was about to start crying at the initial press conference. Mike McCarthy is a Pittsburgh native. That press conference was equivalent of like a Dan Campbell. This guy's going to give it everything he's got to get Pittsburgh back on the winning side of things. Of course, the logistics of getting a quarterback and everything, that's always a big deal, and getting younger and doing a rebuild. But again, like I said last week, that's the most patient organization in all of sports. They will work with McCarthy. I don't think you need to stay at any organization over 10 years, or at least you need to evaluate. So what if he's there 5, 6, 7, 8 years and not 15, 20? Does he really need to be there 18, 19 years like a Mike Tomlin did, and for things to get stale? I don't think so. So I thought it was a great hire. Jesse Mentor, after looking into that, from the Baltimore Ravens, also very good hire there. The guy I talked about last week worked with both Harbaughs there, about 8 years, I want to say, of an apprenticeship there. Been a hot commodity for the last few years. He could be the Ben Johnson of this particular hire, coming from the defensive side of the ball. And, of course, the Giants with John Harbaugh, with all their talent, it's already in place. Another really good hire there. Falcons, not a great hire, but an upgrade hire over the former coach there, the defensive side, Kevin Stefanski with Atlanta. Dolphins, don't think Dolphins does a good job there. Not in love with Jeff Hafley. That's a wild card type of hire per se. And the Titans, Robert Saleh, that hire is growing on me. So, okay, Robert Saleh, that's a good transition there for me, folks. From the Titans yesterday have hired Brian Daboll. That is a rock star offensive coordinator there. Remember the Brian Daboll going back to his Buffalo days, really took a big jump year 1 to year 2. You can look at Josh Allen's transgression there from the guy that looks like he was just running around making plays to a guy developing his short game there, having that initial success at Buffalo with Josh Allen, and then taking the job with the New York Giants, getting a guy. Remember, Daniel Jones was hurt a lot. A lot of people don't understand this. Daniel Jones was hurt quite a bit with the New York Giants. He's either playing hurt, you could tell he was visibly hurt, or he was simply out of these games here. But mind you, he took Daniel Jones and got Daniel Jones a playoff win with this team here. And you saw what he was doing with Jackson Dart. Got a little overzealous there at the end, pushing Dart to get out of the tent real quick when he had his concussion issues. But you could see and you know, I said this throughout the season. After they fired the ball, you could see Dart's play deteriorate as the season got towards the end. I know he had a good game. Was it towards Dallas at the end? But you could see Dart's play start to deteriorate at that time. So Brian Daboll for the Tennessee Titans, man, what a massive home run hit here. Now, let me say this here. With Tennessee, they've got the top 5 pick, the number 4 pick overall. You've got Cam Ward going back to the Hard Knocks episode there with Brian Daboll, the New York Giants, the offseason, which, by the way, that's my favorite one. Of all the types of formats they can do, the offseason Hard Knocks with the Giants was the best one I've ever seen. That shows the front office throughout the draft process. I thought that was really cool. But that being said, he really in love with Cam Ward, the way Cam Ward conducted himself in his meeting and stuff. Although I think, I don't think he was actually on that one. But you kind of got a feel, I think it was the year before, but you kind of got with Jalen Daniels, you got a feel for what kind of coach he is in that particular one. And then this past year, you saw him, you kind of get a sense that that's probably the way he acted with Jalen Daniels, the way he acted about Cam Ward. Him and Joe Sheehan, they wanted to trade up. They were willing to offer a next year's first-round pick and, of course, their 3 pick overall and multiple picks from go to 3. Now, it would have worked out if they would have done that, but they were offering multiple picks to move up from 3 to 1 to get Cam Ward. Obviously, Tennessee turned that down. Now, so he likes Cam Ward. You know, you got the $100 million plus in cap room. That's the most in the NFL. You got Cam Ward. You got the number 4 pick. They've also had the young talent they brought in last year. So you've had 2 top 5 picks, 3 top 10 picks if you count the year before. And then you got the 2 top 5 picks, and you got the most cap money in the NFL with Brian Daboll. So I'll say this. That hire right there makes Tennessee, as of today, a legit – this is before free agency coming up in March, which is going to be huge here in Nashville because the Titans have all this money. But you look at that, if they're halfway competent in how they spend money in free agency and have a somewhat decent draft where they get a guy like a David Bailey from Texas Tech for an edge rusher, or Reuben Bain, edge rusher from Miami, somebody of that nature, that this combination of Robert Saleh and Brian Daboll will put them in the playoff hunt next year. That will put them in a not Super Bowl hunt. There's too much competition out there. But I can conservatively say they will be a legit playoff contender next year. Now, the Brian Daboll, the issue I have with hiring a guy that's a star like a Brian Daboll, that you're probably only going to get him 1 year. So if you're a Titans fan, no matter Nashville area, if you're a Titans fan, you got to look and say, okay, what are those teams going to be that could possibly be looking for coaches next year? Okay. Number one, first and foremost, I know that the Jets, Aaron Glenn, has reached out to Jon Gruden to help him out. The controversial Jon Gruden, who I thought would be a good candidate for the Titans job. But Jon Gruden has said no. He's also, I've read, he's reached out to Wink Martindale with good plan. He's fired his offensive coordinator. That is the number one job I think that will be probably open, pending a miracle, would be that Jets job opening next year. They've got multiple first-round picks for the next few years. Remember, they traded away Quentin Williams, they Sauce Gardner and whatnot midseason last year. So they're loaded with draft capital. And unfortunately, they're stuck with Justin Fields. Now, if you're a Titans fan, you hope that they win enough games where they're not sitting there with that number one overall pick. You don't want the Jets sitting there with the number one overall pick, and Archie Manning has an all, which he could, and Arch Manning down in Texas has that all-world season next year, wins a Heisman Trophy, and is projected to be the first overall pick. You don't want a situation like that if you're a Titans fan, because you want to keep the ball, okay? So you want them to pick about about fifth or sixth or something like that, you know, if they decide. And he would be the odds-on favorite to get fired next year would be Aaron Glenn. I don't think he's going to survive this year. But that's number one guy I would be worried about if I'm a Titans fan, to lose Brian Daboll. He would love it to come into the same stadium that's being played at and beat the former and shine for the rival team that they share the stadium with in the AFC. Brian Daboll would. So that would be one. Now, the other one would be Todd Bowles down in Tampa. They've also got new offensive coordinators here, you know. So Todd Bowles down in Tampa, working with Baker Mayfield, with the young Emeka Egbuka, pretty decent defense. I can see him wanting to do that. That would be another one. So you want them to win some games. You want Bowles to rebound and keep his job and win the NFC South next year if you're Tennessee. And number three would be really bad. It would be the Carly Ursay Gordon. Now, she comes off a little bit of a micromanager to me. This is the owner of the Indianapolis Colts. I talked about the story where she is wanting to, or she listens in to all the play calls and says she don't want to hear no nonsense on the plays, messed up or everything. I thought that was a little much with the micromanagement. The Colts fans that I talked to doing Uber here in town that were in from Indianapolis said that they didn't think that was a big deal. They actually like Carly Ursay Gordon. If you look at some of the pictures of her, she looks a little crazy to me. I ain't saying she's crazy. I said she looks a little crazy. And, you know, things just don't work out with Daniel Jones. That would reunite him with Jones. I don't know if they would want that or not, but that would be an awful nightmare for the Titans for Brian Daboll. So what you can hope for is none of these jobs are really attractive for him next year. And hopefully you can get him 3-4 years, or at least during Cam Ward's rookie contract, or if Tennessee just wins the Super Bowl with them, and then you lose him that way. That's what you can hope for. But my biggest concern for the ball is he's going to be one and done, and Robert Saleh is going to make the crucial mistake that many prominent coaches have made, and I do quite a few. Let me you get rid of the star, and you hire the quarterback coach who's been a quarterback coach for 20 minutes, but he's the faithful assistant, the in-house quarterback coach or whatever. Make him the coordinator, and the offense falls off a truck the next year. Meanwhile, you're wasting away Cam Ward's rookie contract where you can really stack the team and be in the potential Super Bowl. Okay? Philadelphia, same thing. Hired the in-house guy, fired the in-house guy. Don't be Philadelphia. Tampa, just mentioned that. Lost their coordinator this past. They had Dave Canals, and then they lost Liam Cohen to Jacksonville. Okay, and then they instead of going outside, they hired the air quote in-house guy. Well, that in-house guy was fired. Tampa did it. Detroit, the lovable Dan Campbell. Detroit gets Ben Johnson, rock star offensive coordinator, gets the job with the Bears. We saw what he did. The Bears look great, right? They hired the in-house guy. Well, so that's three right there. Do not hire the in-house guy when you lose your offensive coordinator. Do the league-wide search. Go to college and search. Go through, overturn every single rock possible, Robert Saleh. Because I'm sure it ain't if, it's when you're going to lose Robert Duvall. I hope Robert Duvall's doing well. I like his movies. Let's heard a line from his movie Apocalypse Now. I love the smell of napalm in the morning. Robert Duvall movie, old school. I think it was a Vietnam movie from the 70s. Anyways, so it's a great hire. It's a great. You put that hire, Cam Ward. Defense is going to be much better. Long as they don't just totally destroy or jack up the free agency process, and they hit somewhat on the draft picks, this team is going to be. You should expect them to make a run at the playoffs. Not sure about Super Bowl. I like what the Chargers offseason is looking like with McDonald as their offensive coordinator. That could be really good. That could be really good for them, for the Chargers. So very good hire there. That's a home run. Would I prefer a Cliff Kingsbury? Yes, because I think since Kingsbury has been fired twice, fired from Texas Tech and fired from Arizona, and the notion that he is not good at holding players accountable, that maybe he's just looked at as not head coaching material, like a Josh McDaniels, who's going to be with New England for a number of years because he's done been fired twice. I would much rather prefer have him more of a 3 to 4 to 5 year type of guy to work with Cam Ward rather than a Brian Duvall, who may be a little better in some spots, only work with Cam Ward a year or maybe two. But we'll just have to hold our breath and see how successful they become. If he gets hired away, the positive side to look at it, if you're a Titans fan, that means the Titans were successful, So a lot to be excited about. Much more upbeat about this Robert Saleh hiring than I was when I first read about him getting hired last week. Okay? I know that's saying a lot, but a lot of people here in the Nashville area wanted to hear that full drawn-out take on that. Okay. Bill Belichick. I was really surprised about this. I'm well-versed on – I've seen multiple documentaries on Bill Belichick. I've seen one with Bill Parcells, the two Bills. I've seen one with the two greatest coaches, with Bill Belichick and Nick Saban. That was a little bit more recently than the two Bills. Both are great documentaries on Bill Belichick. But, the fact that he did not get into the first ballot Hall of Fame, he fell short of getting the 40 of the 50 votes. I understand Deflategate and Spygate. Spygate was first. Deflategate came later on. Spygate was, supposedly spying on practices and whatever of opposing teams. And Deflategate was simply is deflating football, something as minor as that. They got blown up. This was in the middle of their Super Bowl run. Those are between their two dynasty-like runs, or whatever you want to call it, over the years to that 20-year period with Tom Brady. And, the guys got – and you look at all that, and I understand that side of it. But also you got to look at the human side of it, that these guys are – these sports writers that vote on this stuff are human too, folks. And the fact that they all those years of Bill Belichick being short with the media about, on the Cincinnati, not wanting to give straight answers before game, post game, very monotone-like answers there that the reporters were finding insulting and whatnot. They took that into account. You better believe, I think that they're not going to say that publicly, but they did take that into account. As a fan, I thought those were funny. Those were made jokes about. There was skits made about it, but they took that pretty seriously over the years. But all that being said, I've mentioned this before. I don't care for Steve Kerr and his lectures on political stuff when he's very he has selective outrage, and he's using him and Greg Papa. They want to use that background back there. They want to use that NBA logo to lecture people how much they hate the current president and talk about all that stuff. And not only that with Greg Popovich over the years, but he would also insult the reporters, and every question was a bad question and all that. All that being said, if I'm an NBA writer, as much as I despise those two guys, especially Greg Popovich, and, God bless him, I know he's having some health problems right now, I would still recognize the fact that he's a Hall of Fame, he's a first ballot Hall of Fame coach, Greg Popovich was, Whether he did it with Tim Duncan or not, he's a first ballot Hall of Fame coach, as much as I personally just don't like him. Same thing with Steve Kerr, four-time NBA champ. He's a first ballot Hall of Fame coach. So the fact that they just didn't get it, this was very petty, and Jimmy Johnson even weighed in. The Hall of Fame coach himself, former Dallas Cowboy coach, Jimmy Johnson here, said that, what did I see this at, man? It's really good. I passed this up the other day, and I don't know, earlier today. And I'm going to find it. He's got a really good quote here, Coach Jimmy Johnson does. And he's talking about, here we go. This is what Jimmy Johnson said on his X account. He said, if they're using the excuse Spygate, now just mentioned the Spygate, right? He said, if they're using the excuse of Spygate, that's ridiculous. Many teams, including ourselves, talking about his Cowboys, tried it. Howard Mudd at Kansas City, who later coached for Bill Polian, and Tony Dungy. Remember, Dungy's very straight-laced guy, Christian and everything. Howard Mudd at Kansas City, who later coached for Bill Polian and Tony Dungy, gave us the idea. He was the best. We didn't get anything, and stopped by many teams gave it a try. we didn't get anything and stopped by many teams, gave it a try. So essentially, he's saying it's really and you know, Jimmy Johnson puts the word excuse in all caps, Spygate, because I noticed that Rob Parker from Fox Sports said he has mad respect for the writers to be able to say Belichick shouldn't be rewarded for cheating. It's really a bunch of nonsense. I think they just wanted to send a message to Bill Belichick that he wasn't above the league. I still think he'll probably get voted in next year round. Just like Terrell Owens wasn't first ballot, even though his numbers were first ballot. He was a headache in the locker room. He's one of the most toxic players I've ever seen when he was at his worst. But he ended up getting it. Numbers-wise, he was there. You know, it wasn't this wasn't a popularity contest. It was a production contest. It's all about production. You know. And Terrell Owens did get it. Remember, he ended up doing this speech there at Chattanooga and have an event there where he went to school at rather than the regular Hall of Fame. So be it, Terrell Owens is happy. I thought that was nonsense. I would definitely vote Bill Belichick into the Hall of Fame, especially with the Spygate and all that stuff. Listen, folks, he won Super Bowls after the Spygate incident, and technically, yes, him and Brady won Super Bowls after Deflategate. And by the way, Brady played on those teams, and Brady was the first ballot guy. So do you really want to hold him responsible for that? You got to go across the board. It was just pure, some people want to call it jealousy. I just think it was like a way of getting back at him, the way he's talked to the reporters over the years. I think it's mainly that. The old adage is you get more bees with honey than vinegar. But either way, he'll get in. I think so. But the fact that he's older, it's a little bit, you know, it was a little bit of a, we all know he's the best. I still say he's the greatest of all time. Others may disagree because of his record without Brady. But I still think that you look at what he did with Cleveland, and you look at the fact that the story is not over with yet. He's still coaching. So let's not jump to conclusions on anything of that nature. Okay, same thing with Eli Manning. Eli Manning did not get voted in to the Hall of Fame. Now, I said the day he retired, the day Eli Manning retired, I said Eli Manning should be in the Hall of Fame, but Eli Manning is not a first ballot Hall of Famer. His numbers are not of his brother. They're not gaudy like a Tom Brady. They're not even like a Drew Brees. I think Drew Brees has one of the passing records, or did it for one time. I think Peyton broke it, whatever. But the old adage is, can you tell the story of the NFL in his era without using Eli Manning's name? And the answer is no. One time you could call it a fluke if he would have beat the 2008 or 2007 dominating Patriot team that went 18-0. You beat them in the Super Bowl. Big throw after big throw. David Tyree catch. You know, the Plexico Burress catch. And, you know, you do that once, but then you do it in the second Super Bowl where you had the Mario Manningham play. You know, definitely got to put him in, but he's not first ballot. This is the first ballot. I'm totally okay with that. Totally different situation with the Belichick, arguably the best of all time. So I do think he'll get in, maybe second or third. Eli Manning, I know he's a little disappointed, not first ballot, but you cannot take those 2 rings away from him. And he beat Belichick and Brady twice. So, yeah, he's a Hall of Famer. And you say, well, you know, you can also look at it from the fact that his coach there, not the most quarterback-friendly coach in Tom Coughlin. Very conservative, run the ball up the middle, let's play defense. You know, I know that Mark Brunell had a shot at MVP one year in '99 when they won 14 games. And he was also coaching that team. But for the most part, quarterbacks in Tom Coughlin's offense don't really succeed. I mean, it's really a team about, it's really like a Marty Schottenheimer type of team, except he actually won with Manning. Very conservative, reset the clocks, make the very disciplinarian type of don't turn the ball over. Let's don't take a lot of big chances. Let's be very disciplined type of military like the coaching staff. Well, most of his career he played under Tom Coughlin, where that's just the type of, the very conservative system they had. Nothing really overly creative in offense, rather than him playing under like a Sean Payton or Sean McVay right now, or a Kevin O'Connell, somebody of that nature, where he could have had those gaudy numbers. But we know he had the talent. We saw him in college. He was the first overall pick too. You know, he had great numbers in college. But I think he'll get in. That's my whole point. I think that Eli Manning will get in to the Hall of Fame, if not the next few. And you know, there is some speculation. I think Bill Poland's one of those voters, going back to that Bill Belichick thing. And there's a speculation that he's one that didn't vote Belichick in. And Bill Poland, the former general manager, I thought this was the sports writers, saying he could not remember with 100% certainty on if he voted for Bill Belichick to be in the Hall of Fame, per Seth Wickersham. Poland said he was shocked to find out that Bill didn't get in. So that feels a little bit suspect right there. Don Shula, former Miami Dolphins head coach here, his son, one of his sons is a defensive coordinator or whatever. He's assistant there with the Rams. Been talked about potentially being a very young, like 35, potentially being a head coach at some point. He said he didn't like Belichick. He always thought he was a cheater, and he's still trying to get Don Shula's record. Don Shula, former Dolphins coach, who has the only perfect season in NFL, 72 Dolphins. But I think he's got the all-time wins record. He's still short of that. He's in college. He might not ever get that, But I really hate that about Belichick. But, Belichick brought a lot of this stuff on himself. He did burn a lot of bridges. But that was just his personality. I still think he'll probably get in the next ballot. I kind of like to see him get the job in the NFL and get that record, get Don Shula's record. He's only a few short. I think he's like 13 or something wins or something like that. He's not very far off of that particular record. Okay, folks, if you like the show, share the show. I'll be back here tomorrow. We'll discuss all these coaching hires and openings with the Mad New Yorker. We'll go over, get his take on the 2 conference championship games here. And hopefully next week I'll have my man Rich Ferris on. He, like I said, him and a lot of people got issues with the power being out for several days. When it's out like that, you have to throw all your food out. You got to really do a reevaluation of everything so you won't get food poison or anything. So, and everybody in the city is going through it. It's still ice all over the place because the temperature hasn't got very warm at all. It's barely above freezing for an hour or two all week. So I'll be back here again live with the Mad New Yorker, and hopefully I'll get a few more guests as we go along into the off season. We got a lot of stuff to talk about here. Probably start getting into a little bit of college basketball is good too. Start talking a little bit more of that. What I've been snowed in over the past few days, I've been catching up on a lot of college basketball. And I tell you, a lot of talent out there. Very impressed with Vanderbilt. Big win over Kentucky just last night here in Nashville area. And I was impressed with the comeback road win by, of all people, Coach Calipari in Arkansas over Oklahoma. I saw that game last night, too. So that was a good comeback win, double-digit road comeback win for them as well. So just getting the last few nuggets in there, folks. Have a good night, everybody. I'll see you tomorrow. Same time, same place, here on The Real Sports Go.